Welcome to Tech Talk Central. We're doing another deep dive today, and this one is all about high-end sound for your living room. You asked us to look at two really big contenders, the new Sonos Arc Ultra and the Sony Bravia Theater Bar 8.
Yeah, these are definitely top-tier soundbars. The Sonos Arc Ultra is the newer one, just out October 2024. And the Sony, the Theater Bar 8, that's model HTA 8000, that came out a bit earlier, May 2024.
Right, so our job today is basically to unpack the sources, figure out which one might give you that, superior home cinema sound, and what all these features actually mean day to day.
Exactly. Because they're both premium, no doubt, but they tackle immersive audio in, well, pretty different ways. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. And right away, you see this kind of core acoustic battle playing out. It's like channels versus speakers, almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Let's start with the Sonos Arc Ultra. Their whole approach seems defined by the channel count. It's specifically listed as 9.1.4 spatial audio using Dolby Atmos.
Okay, so 9 main channels, the point 1 for the sub, and then 4 height channels firing upwards. That sounds very precise.
It is. Sonos talks about their all-new acoustic architecture with sound motion technology. The idea is to really place sounds accurately within that 9.1.4 field, fill the room, but keep things distinct.
And they've got that AI speech enhancement, too, which, honestly, for movie watching, that could be huge, making dialogue super clear even when things get chaotic.
Definitely a practical feature. Now, switching gears to the Sony Bravia Theater Bar 8. Sony's talking less about a fixed channel count and more about the physical hardware and the processing. It has 11 speaker units built in.
11, okay, so dedicated drivers for front center upfiring.
Exactly. But the real secret sauce for Sony is their 360 spatial sound mapping. This tech uses those 11 speakers, but also bounces sound off your ceiling and walls.
Ah, so it's creating phantom speakers, trying to simulate a bigger setup.
Precisely. It maps your room and then, virtually places sound sources all around you. It also supports Dolby Atmos, of course, but Sony also makes a point of mentioning DGSX support and IMAX Enhanced certification.
Right, those extra badges.
Which signals it meets certain, let's say, cinematic fidelity standards.
Yeah.
So what's fascinating here is, do you prefer the known quantity, the defined 9.1.4 channels of the Sonos?
Or do you go for Sony's approach, relying on clever software and room reflections to build that soundstage?
That's the core acoustic question.
But hang on, if the Sony relies so much on bouncing sound, what if your room isn't, a perfect box, like an open plan space or really high ceilings? Does that make the Sonos with its fixed channels inherently more reliable?
That is a really important point, and it's why calibration is so critical for the Sony system, which we should definitely talk about. The 360 mapping needs to understand the room. But yeah, irregular spaces can be more challenging for reflection-based tech.
Okay, so calibration is key there. Let's park that for a sec. Assuming you've picked your acoustic approach, how easy are these things to actually live with? Control, connectivity, that stuff matters.
Totally. On the basics, they're pretty much neck and neck. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Spotify Connect, Apple AirPlay 2.
Yeah.
All the standard ways to stream wirelessly.
Check, check, check. Where do they differ then?
It seems to be about where they fit in your tech world. Sonos positions the Arc Ultra as like the heart of a whole home audio system.
Right, the Sonos ecosystem. So you can control it with your TV remote, sure, but also the Sonos app, touch controls on the bar itself.
And it has Sonos voice control and Amazon Alexa built in. So loads of flexibility, especially if you already have other Sonos speakers.
Okay. And the Sony.
Sony's focus seems tighter, really zeroing in on the TV experience, especially if you have a Sony Bravia TV. Their big feature is Acoustic Center Sync.
That's the one where it uses the TV's own speakers.
Exactly. It turns your compatible Bravia TV speakers into the center channel. So dialogue feels like it's coming right from the screen, not from the bar underneath it. Pretty clever. Control is mainly via the TV menu or their Bravia Connect app.
Interesting. So Sonos is about whole home control, flexibility. Sony is about super tight TV integration. What about setting them up and tuning them? You mentioned calibration earlier.
Right. Sonos uses TruePlay. You need the Sonos app and usually an iPhone or iPad. You walk around waving your phone while it plays test tones.
Yeah, I've seen that. It maps the room's acoustics.
Correct. It measures how sound reflects and adjusts the output. Sony has its own version called Sound Field Optimization.
How does that work?
Similar principle, using built-in mics, I believe. It analyzes the room size, the surfaces, even where you're sitting, and calibrates the sound profile, which is crucial for that 360 spatial sound mapping to work accurately.
Gotcha. So both have room correction, just different methods.
Right.
Acoustics, control, setup. Where does the real separation happen? Here's where it gets really interesting. Video and gaming.
Yes. This is probably the single biggest technical differentiator, and it could be the deciding factor for a lot of people, especially gamers.
Why is that?
The Sony Bravia Theater Bar 8 is explicitly built for modern video and gaming needs. It passes through 4K HDR, 8K HDR, Dolby Vision, all the good stuff. But crucially, it lists support for key HDMI 2.1 gaming features.
Okay, break that down for us. What do those letters actually mean for someone gaming?
We're talking 4K 120, that's 4K resolution at a super smooth 120 frames per second. Then VRR, variable refresh rate, which stops screen tearing and stuttering by syncing the display refresh rate with the console.
Okay, vital for smooth gameplay.
Absolutely.
Yep.
ALLM, auto low latency latency. It automatically tells your TV and the soundbar to switch to their fastest response mode when you start gaming. Less input lag.
And Sony even adds extra stuff if you have a PS5 and a Bravia TV.
That's right. Auto HDR tone mapping and auto genre picture mode, optimizing the picture automatically. Sony is clearly targeting that high-end gamer and home cinema enthusiast who needs maximum video throughput.
So, where does Sonos stand on this? Does the Arc Ultra match up?
Well, this is the key difference. The Sonos Arc Ultra connects using HDMI EARC, which handles the audio return brilliantly. But the sources we have, they just don't list that same explicit support for the full HDMI 2.1 gaming suite, 4K 120, VRR, ALM that Sony details.
So if you're a serious console gamer wanting those next-gen features guaranteed through your soundbar, the Sony looks like the safer bet on paper.
Based on the listed specs, yes. Sony makes a point of highlighting it. Sonos doesn't seem to emphasize it for the Arc Ultra in the same way. It's a potential bottleneck if those specific gaming features are critical for
So
you.
it's a massive difference. Okay, so that might push some people one way or the other. What about expanding these systems? Because a soundbar is often just the start.
Good point. Both are designed for wireless expansion, which is great. No speaker wires running across the room.
So for Sonos, how do you build it out?
You add a Sonos sub, obviously for the low end. And then, crucially, for the best Atmos, you add their Era 300 rear speakers.
Why specifically the Era 300?
Because the Era 300s aren't just regular surround speakers. They have their own up-firing drivers built in. So combined with the Arc Ultra's up-firing drivers, you get physical height channels at the front and the back. That really completes the 9.1.4 immersive bubble.
Okay, true physical height channels front and rear. What about Sony's expansion?
Also wireless. You can add one of their subwoofers, either the SA-SW3 or the bigger SA-SW5. And for rears, you've got the SA-RS8 or the SA-RS5.
Are those Sony rears similar with up-firing drivers?
The SA-RS5 model does have up-firing drivers, yes. The SA-RS8 appears to be more traditional surroundings. But even with the RS5s, Sony is still partly relying on that 360 spatial sound mapping to create the full immersive effect, filling in the gaps with phantom speakers.
So it comes back to that core difference again. Sonos relies more on defined physical speaker locations, especially with the Era 300s, while Sony uses a combination of physical speakers and sophisticated virtualization.
Exactly. And setup for the Sony add-ons sounds super simple. The sources say they pair automatically when you plug them in.
Nice. Any other little details? Physical size?
Minor differences. The Sony is a bit shorter, about 43 inches wide, and lighter at around 10.4 pounds. The Sonos Arc Ultra is a bit longer, maybe 46 inches, and a bit heavier at nearly 13 pounds. Not huge, but maybe relevant for tight spaces.
Good to know. Okay, let's try and tie this all together then. If you're listening and trying to decide, what are the main trade-offs here?
Well, summing it up, the Sonos Arc Ultra really shines with its clearly defined 9.1.4 channel architecture for precise sound placement. And of course, its seamless integration into the wider Sonos multi-room ecosystem, plus all those control options like built-in Alexa.
It's a proven, flexible multi-room choice with a focus on channel precision.
Right. Then the Sony Bravia Theater Bar 8. Its strengths are that innovative 360 spatial sound mapping, the deep integration potential with Bravia TVs via Acoustic Center Sync, and crucially, that explicit documented support for the HDMI 2.1 gaming features, 4K 120, VRR, and ALM.
So what does this all mean? Who buys which?
You know, it's less about which one sounds universally better. They're both likely fantastic. It really comes down to better ecosystem fit for your specific needs.
Okay.
You really have to ask yourself, are you primarily building a system where guaranteed, Cutting-edge gaming and video throughput via HDMI 2.1 is absolutely non-negotiable. If yes, the Sony specs offer more reassurance there.
Makes sense.
Or are you prioritizing a super flexible multi-room audio setup? Maybe you already have Sonos gear. Do you value that guaranteed 9.1.4 physical channel layout, especially when expanded with Era 300s, and the convenience of built-in voice assistants? Then the Sonos Arc Ultra looks like the stronger contender.
So it's gaming video pass-through focus versus multi-room flexibility and channel definition focus. That's the core decision point.
I think that frames it pretty well. It's about aligning the soundbar's strengths with your main use case.
Excellent breakdown. A really helpful way to think about it. All right, thanks for digging into all that with us today here at Tech Talk Central.
My pleasure. Always interesting comparing the top gear.
Definitely. So for everyone listening, if you want to find the latest prices and deals on either the Sonos Arc Ultra or the Sony Bravia Theater Bar 8, make sure you check out the links we've put in the description below.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive and want more tech analysis, hit that subscribe button for Tech Talk Central.
We really appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.